Hey, hello everybody. My name is Vera Chikezie-Oke and I'm the sexologist for wholesome sexuality. Here we teach about sex as it affects you, your life, your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your God, a relationship with your spouse. Have you liked? Have you subscribed? Have you shared? I keep saying share this content because you never can tell who needs to hear from us. While we wait, go ahead and share. And we're back. I've missed you guys. Have you missed me? So today we're going to be talking about rebuilding intimacy after trauma. Now, a lot of people in our terrain experience one or more forms of trauma. Trauma can be sexual, it can be physical, it can be an abuse, it can be mental, it can be the loss of a loved one, it can be anything. Right? Remember, like we always say here, that the mind is the greatest sex organ. So anything that goes against the normal way of the mind alters the body's response, or rather, in any way by which the mind is affected, it has a ripple effect on the body. So trauma is anything negative that affects the mind or the body. Trauma can be physical, it can be mental, it can be financial, right? It can be anything. The sexual traumas could be abuse, could be rape, it could be violation, it could be battering. Now, a lot of people shut down after a trauma, mostly when it has not been properly dealt with. A lot of people's reaction to trauma is to shut down. Some other people's reaction to trauma is to traumatize others, is to give back in a negative way. Some other people's reaction to trauma is to, when they say an eye for an eye. So because this was done to you, you now decide and vow that every other person that comes across you must experience the kind of trauma or even worse than you did. In these aspects of the video, we are actually basing on sexual traumas, which can be rape or abuse. If the trauma was inflicted or instigated by the spouse, that's a different thing altogether. If the trauma was a childhood trauma or a trauma that does not involve the spouse, is also a different ball game altogether. Now, so how do we build intimacy after trauma? Building intimacy after trauma is a delicate and gradual process. It requires patience, trust, and open communication. Trauma is, in particular, if it is related to intimacy or relationship, can create significant barriers. So if the trauma is related to the spouse, right, it can actually create barriers, significant barriers that need to be carefully navigated. So here are some steps on how to rebuild intimacy after trauma. The first step is acknowledge the trauma. Acknowledge the fact that you've been traumatized. Agree. It's not the one that you say, God forbid, it did not happen. It happened. You know that it happened. It happened. Accept the fact that it has happened. Do not blame yourself for it happening, but accept it that, okay, I was raped. Now, what next? Because a lot of people going through trauma they are first in denial for a while. It did not happen. It was a dream. It's a figment of my imagination. I think it didn't happen to me. It cannot happen to me. No, let's face reality first. Accept the fact, acknowledge the fact that the trauma happened. Then both partners now need to acknowledge the fact that the trauma has happened and acknowledge its impact on their relationship. Now, are you upset? What is your emotional response? So it has to do with a conversation between both parties involved, right? In this case, we're talking about spouses. What happened? How did it happen? How did it make you feel? All this is still under the umbrella of understanding and acknowledging the trauma. The next will be to seek professional help. I would even rather put professional help first before this. Why? Because most times people going through trauma do not even know that they are going through it. They don't even know that their bodies are reacting to a particular trauma that they have been through. So that's where the place of a professional comes in. So either you see a therapist or a counselor that will help you go back in time to when the trauma happened, to what you were before the trauma happened, help you acknowledge and pinpoint exactly the time the trauma happened, and then now help you realize your trauma response. Are you seeing that? Then, while you have gotten professional help, the therapist will create a safe space to process your emotions and develop coping strategies. Trauma-informed therapy is particularly helpful, right? The third thing you need to do is open communication. Now, no secrets, no holdbacks. As it is, say it. Open communication. Create a space where both partners can express their feelings, their fears, and needs without judgment. Not the one that one person is trying to say that, you see, this thing you did to me really hurts me. You're like, what do you mean by that? Hurts you, okay? Do you know it also hurts me? Open and honest communication. Have conversations around it. This is what happened. This is what you did that hurts me in this way. And I think this is why my body is responding to you in this way. One of the most profound traumas couples experience in marriage is the trauma of infidelity. I mean, it's a whole different ballgame altogether. The trauma of infidelity. The cheating partner has to be able to open up and say, this is what I did. This is how I did it. And you also need to be, then the partner that was cheated on, the betrayed partner, now has to be able to listen and be able to articulate the feelings from that experience and be able to tell the spouse that this and this is what I feel, or this is my trauma response. Then rebuild trust. Trauma damages trust. Rebuilding trust involves consistent, honest communication, setting boundaries, and respecting each other's feelings. You don't have a right to say how your spouse would react to your betrayal or your abuse. You don't even have a right to determine how long your partner would grieve or experience the trauma. All you need to do is to be consistent with honest communication, set boundaries, and respect each other's feelings. Oh, and then we take it slow. Take it slow. It's not that one of, oh, but I've said sorry now. You've said sorry. Who your sorry help? Yeah, you've said sorry. I have a choice to accept it or not. I have a choice. So that's why we talk about respecting each other's feelings. You've said sorry, I agree, but I need to accept the sorry. You need to understand my apology language, and I need to understand yours. So you're saying sorry does not mean that I have or I should accept it. Take it slow. Rushing the process will lead to setbacks. Small steps per time in building intimacy. Small steps per time. Don't rush from 1 to 5. Don't rush from I'm sorry today to taking off the clothes on Friday. No, take it slow. A gradual process till your spouse becomes comfortable enough to open up, to give and receive of you. Now, reconnect emotionally. Focus on non-physical forms of intimacy. A touch here or there. Non-physical, when I say non-physical, I'm referring to sex itself. Emotional connection. Spend quality time with each other. Engage in activities that foster closeness. Go on dates. Quality time. Play. watch movies. We are adults. Yes, I heard somebody say the other day, I'm an adult, I'm responsible for how I react. I agree. But the moment you stop playing in your marriage, the fun starts leaving. Do things and activities that foster closeness. So before we start talking about physical intimacy, you should have connected emotionally first. Like I always say, if the emotional part works, the physical parts would flow well. When you are both ready, when you both feel ready, remember you're still having conversations about it. You begin to reintroduce physical intimacy gradually, one step at a time. One step at a time. Start with non-sexual touches. A touch here, a touch there. A peck on the head, a peck on the cheek. Nothing rigorously sexual. Then establish boundaries. Setting clear boundaries around intimacy is very important. Both partners should agree on what is comfortable and what isn't. Remember that you are dealing with a trauma. So you are trying to reconnect after trauma. The trauma can be infidelity. The trauma can be abuse. The trauma can be rape. The trauma can be lack of funds. Yes, it's a very traumatic experience when there's no money in the account. It's very traumatic. The body will not even answer. Now you have to practice patience and compassion. You have to be patient with each other. You have to be patient with each other. Work hand in taking each step to building intimacy again. The next thing would be to build new emotional, positive experiences. Build new positive experiences. What are the things that make you laugh? What are the things that make you long for each other? What are the things, mindful practices to stay present and it's reduce these mindful practices, help you stay present and reduce anxieties. Encourage self-care, spa dates, massage, to help you maintain emotional and mental well-being. Mental health is very important, you see. Then, remember I mentioned that you should get professional help. Stay in touch with your counselor or therapist. They will help you journal and take notes of your progress as you keep trying to rebuild intimacy after trauma. I wrote here, I said, every individual relationship is unique. So these steps might need to be adapted to fit your own specific situation. The key is to approach the process with empathy, patience, and a commitment to healing together. See you in the next video.